In this lesson, we're going to introduce design views. Design views are used to show an assembly with different components visibility on and off. It will be able to switch back and forth between different design views. The file that we're going to be using for this lesson is called designviews.iam, and it can be found in your Chapter 9 exercise folder. There's a couple different ways of creating design views. First of all, I'm going to expand the representations folder. And under the View entry, you'll notice that we have an entry called Master in Private. To create a new design view, I'm going to right-click on the View Master, and from the menu, go ahead and click on New. And you notice that it pops up a new entry here, and it's called View 1. I'm going to click in there slowly, and then you can type in a new name. So in this case, we'll type in Internals. And then from the Graphics window, I'm going to select two components by holding down the Control key, and then I'm going to turn their visibility off. And now what I want to do is I'm going to lock this design view by right-clicking over it and clicking Lock. Now by locking it, any other change that we do to this assembly will not be reflected into our internal design view that has now been saved. So if I go back to the master, which is the default, it exists in every assembly. I can always go back now and switch back to the internals and back and forth. Let me show you another way of doing this. From the top portion of the browser, select on Design View Representation. From the Design View Representations dialog box, we have two different options to do this. So we have a public, which will be published as you have seen below here in the browser, or you can create a private. If you create a private design view, an IDV file will be written out to the hard drive, and that file will be required to find out which components should be turned on and off. In this case, I'm going to go back and create another public, and then I'm going to select down here where it says Master, and for this design view, I'm just going to turn the visibility of that top component off. So now I'll just go ahead and click on New, and then I'm going to cancel out of that. And you'll see that it's already created. It is active. I'm going to switch the perspective around just a little bit, and then we'll turn off the visibility of the top component. And again, we'll go ahead and in this case, we will lock the design view. So just very quickly, we go back and forth. You'll also see that it kept my isometric view, and in this case, the view for the top off. If you want to make a change to one of the design views, so in this case with the internals, let's say for example I want to turn off the visibility of one of these components, and I switch back off of it and come back to the internal one, you'll see that it's left back in the exact same condition that it was. So in this case, if I really did want to have that component's visibility off for this design view, what I first need to do is unlock it, then turn the visibility of that component off, and then go back and lock that design view. And we'll test that real quick. And you can see that that change has occurred. Now that these design views are created, we can utilize them when creating drawing views. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create a new drawing. And let's place in our base view. And you'll see the dialog box on the left-hand side. We have a couple different options here. So we have our master, and the internals that we created, and the top off. So in this case, let's go ahead and we'll create the design view with the top off. And let's just zoom up on that. You can make edits to which design view is actually going to be displayed in this view. If I right-click, Edit View, from the list I can go back and say, well, in this case I want to change it to internals. I'm now seeing the internals. You can also right-click, and there's an option here called Apply Design View. We'll do the exact same thing. So in this case, let's go back, and I will change it to top off. And as you can see, the view has been updated. If I go back and do an edit on that view, so the last option to look at here is we have an associative option. It's unchecked by default. So in this case, with it unchecked, any change that is done to the assembly And with these design views, that change will not propagate forward to these drawing views. With this option checked, Of course, it is now associative, so any change done to the design view back at the assembly will automatically be updated in these drawing views.